Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about multiplication versus division story problems. We have two objectives today. The first one says I can determine when to use multiplication or division, and our second one is I can solve division problems by drawing pictures or diagrams. Let's take a look at some vocabulary. When we use division, there's some special vocabulary words that go along with the problem. The answer to a division problem is called the quotient. I have this here color-coded in green. If you look down below, this would be the answer to our division problem. And here in division, we call it a quotient. With multiplication, it's called a product. With subtraction, we call that number a difference. With addition, we call that number a sum. So for division, this answer is called quotient. Then our next term is in red. The dividend is the total before you do any kind of sharing. That number comes first. Here it is down here. That's usually your largest number in a division problem. And the last term is called the divisor. The divisor is the number of equal parts or the number in each equal part. Multiplication versus division. Multiplication starts with small equal groups that need to be counted and totaled. In this example, there are two smaller groups, and each group has 3 things inside of it. I need to total them up to get a large group, and that would make an answer of 6 over here. I'm taking my 2 small groups of 3 and combining them to make one group of 6. So multiplication starts small and usually ends with a big answer. With division, it's exactly the opposite. You want to think of division as sharing. It starts with a big group that needs to be split into smaller groups. So this time we start with one big group of 6, and I want to break it apart into 2 smaller groups of 3. So we use multiplication going small to big, and division is for big groups that we're breaking apart into smaller groups. Would this be multiplication or division? There were 2 people at a party. Each of them ate 3 pieces of pizza. How many pieces of pizza did they eat all together? Notice we have the words all together, which means we're looking for a large answer. So this would be an example of a multiplication problem. If I were going to write it out, I would say there would be my 2 people, and each of them are eating 3 pieces of pizza. So 2 people times their 3 pieces of pizza would give me an answer of 6 pieces of pizza total. Notice this answer is bigger than the 2 numbers I started with. So this is a multiplication problem. Is this multiplication or division? There were 9 packs of gum. Each pack had 10 pieces. How many pieces of gum were there all together? Again, right away we have these key words all together, which means we're looking for a total, looking for a large answer. If I have 9 packs of gum, and each of those packs has 10 pieces, this would be 9 times 10. All together, they would have a total of 90 pieces of gum. That is a very large answer. So again, we're going from small groups to one big group at the end. This is multiplication. Is this multiplication or division? There were 20 marbles. There were 4 kids sharing them. How many marbles did each child get? Here is our key word, sharing. Sharing means dividing. I'm starting with 20 marbles, and I'm going to divide them up because I am sharing. Divide them up by the 4 children that are there. How many did each child get? The answer here would be 5. But the question says, is this multiplication or division? I didn't actually need to solve the problem. What I needed to do was tell if it was multiplication or division. This is division, starting with a big number of marbles and breaking it down into these 4 small groups. Quiz question number 1. Your turn to practice. Is this multiplication or division? Please take out your math notebook. I'm going to read you the problem, and all you need to write down is multiplication or division. You don't need to solve the problem. You certainly can pause it and solve it if you would like to, but for the quiz, I'm going to need to know if it's multiplication or division. Here's the problem. There were 80 Legos. There were 8 children that needed some. How many Legos did each child get? Again, is it multiplication or is this division? When you're done solving the problem, you can move on. All right, now this is not part of your quiz. This is the second part of our lesson because we had 2 objectives. The first one was to be able to tell if a problem was multiplication or division, and our second objective for the day was to be able to solve some story problems. So we're now going to focus on that second objective. There are 15 pennies. Each child receives 4 pennies. How many children are there? All right, we're going to use this diagram to help us. So we have 15 pennies total. I'm going to write this here, 15. And we have each child is getting 4 pennies. So we can say here 4, if we were going to label this, it would say 4 pennies per child. And we can go ahead and write our 4. And the question is, how many children are there? Okay, so how many children are there? All right, so let's think about this. We have 15 pennies. So we're going to draw them out. 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 pennies. And each child is going to get 4. I want to figure out how many children there are. So I'm going to put these into groups of 4. So here would be one group of 4. Here is my second group of 4. This is my third group of 4. And can I make another group of 4? No, I can't. So the answer to my problem, how many children are there? There are 3 children. This really shouldn't say in all. This should say children here. How many children are there? There are 3 children. When I write my number model, I'm going to write what I started with, 15. I divided my 15 pennies into groups of 4, which gives me an answer of 3. There are 3 children at the party. Now we do also have a remainder of 3 pennies. So that would be what my number model would look like. If I'm answering the question though, it just states how many children are there. So the answer to that would be 3. See, our workspace is getting a little bit full here. But the answer to the actual question is 3 children. Here's the next problem. 24 candles are arranged with 3 in each row. How many rows are there? For sorting our information, we can say that, label this candles. And I have 24 of them. And there are 3 per row. So we'll put that down here, 3 per row. And we want to know how many rows are there. This is what we are trying to figure out. Okay, 24 candles with 3 in a row. Well, I'm going to think back to what we talked about in earlier lessons. I think an array would be good for this one. I'm going to draw rows of 3. So I've used 3 candles, and I'm going to keep going until I've used all 24 of my candles. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. All right, now the question again was how many rows are there? Rows go across, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The answer to the question would be 8. So if I were writing my answer, I would say there are 8 rows. Now we want to think about what we did to write our number model. We started with a large number of 24, and this would be an example of a dividing problem. We divided those 24 candles into rows of 3, and this gave us a final answer of 8 rows. Quiz question number 2. You can use the diagram if you want to, but you do not have to. The question says there are 21 puppies, and these 21 puppies are equally in 3 pens. So a pen here is not something that you write with, but it's more like an animal cage. So if we have a pen, it would look something like this. Okay, so a pen is just like its little home or its little cage, and we have 3 of them total. So those, when it says 3 pens, this is what it's talking about, 3 animal homes or 3 little cages. And your question is, you have 21 puppies, and they're going to be spread out equally into these 3 pens. So how many puppies are there per pen? And remember, per means in each. So your job is to take the 21 puppies and put them equally into the 3 pens, and then answer the question, how many puppies are there per pen? All right, here's another story problem example that I'm going to work through with you. 18 cards are dealt so that each player gets 4 cards. How many players are there? Okay, I'm going to go up to the top here, and I'm going to write cards for the first part of my diagram, and I'm going to write down that I have 18 of them, and they're being dealt out so that each player gets 4. So here this would be cards per player, and that is going to be 4. Each player is going to get 4 cards. How many players are there? So I want to know how many players in all are there. This is my question. All right, so I've got 18 cards and each person gets 4. I am going to draw a little square, so I'm going to put them in little groups of 4. So 4 cards for this player means I have at least 1 player there, and I'm going to keep drawing groups of 4 until I've used 18 cards. So now I've used another group of 4 would mean I've used 8 cards. If I do another group of 4, I've used 12 cards. Another group of 4 means I would have used 16 cards. Can I do another group of 4? No, I can't. If I do 4 more cards, I'd have 20 cards, and I don't have that many. I only have 18 cards. So how many players are there? There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. The answer to my question is 4 players. There's 4 players. If I wanted to do a number model, it would be 18 divided by 4 cards per player would equal my answer of 4 players, and there would be 2 cards left over. Now I didn't actually show those leftover cards, but I could draw them down here. And if I double check, I would see 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18. Yep, that's the 18 cards that I started with. All right, quiz question number 3. 17 markers are shared equally among 6 children. How many markers does each child get? Again, you can use the diagram if it helps you, but you don't have to. What you need to do is answer the question, how many markers does each child get? Once you've completed your answers, go ahead and put your answers into the quiz. And that is all for today. Have a good evening.